Okay, so this is a video about the forbidden vowels of English. Basically, this video series is going to cover two vowel sounds. And there's going to be another series called the forbidden consonants of English, which will cover two consonants. Now, I should clarify, when I say forbidden, I don't mean that you're forbidden to use them. In fact, you use them all the time. You use them dozens, maybe hundreds of times per day. You're basically forbidden to know what they are and to understand them, because it's not taught to you. If you have a high school education, and even if you go to university, if you don't take the right courses, like in phonetics and linguistics or whatever, you're probably still not going to know this stuff. So, the first sound, I call it the what's up, doc sound. And to understand that, I want us all to look at four words. The first two are fad and fan. Now ask yourself, does fad rhyme with fan? Fad, fan, fad, fan. No. Fa, fan, an, an. Those are two different vowel sounds. Now, what you'll find, if you do the research, is that, okay, I'm speaking standard American English. Now, everything changes when you get into accents. There are accents spread around the English-speaking world that bend these vowels. And you'll find them even in the audio pronunciation examples on certain dictionaries. Actually, most of the online dictionaries now, there's a little symbol that you can click. So it's like a mouth with a audio coming out of it. You click on that, and it'll give you an audio pronunciation of the word. Some of these people that they get to do the audio pronunciations have accents that bend the vowels and really mess everything up. But standard proper pronunciation is fad, that's the sound, and fan. And the reason why the becomes an like what's up, doc, is whenever there is an N as in November or an M as in Mike, following an the gets bent to an We do that automatically, but we don't have to. Now, for me, learning how to say fan without that sound was difficult at first, because all of my life I had always done the vowel sound before, an N or an M. Whenever any word that had an followed by an N or an M, I would do the But you don't have to, right? I can say fad, fan, fad, fan, fad, fan, fa, 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 fan. Wow, I know I messed up that time. Fad, fan. It's difficult, but it is possible. So the next two words to look at are sand and send. Now with sand, again, you have the sound, right? Sand. And send, that's the short E. So if you were thinking, oh, well, it's the short E, it's not the it's the short E. Well, no, because send is the short E. And sand, when I say sand, I don't have to give it any context. As soon as I say sand, you hear my voice, you hear that word, and you know that I'm talking about the stuff on the beach, right? The fine granules that you make castles with. When I say send, you know that I'm talking about issuing forth something, propelling it away from yourself, sending a text message or whatever. but you don't need any context because the sound of the two words is different. Sand, send, sand, send. So you can tell straight away which word I'm talking about and what the meaning of that word is. Now, that's not true of people who have accents. They can shift one vowel so that it sounds just like the other, and then, in which case now you can't tell. You have to listen to the context. And that means that listening to this person speaking just became a whole lot more tiresome than listening to somebody who speaks standard, proper, well enunciated, standard American English, or British, they call it received pronunciation, RP English, which is a very mild accent, and it's pretty accurate as well. So you can listen to that. It's not tiresome. The vowels are pronounced not quite the same, but accurately. You can differentiate words properly. Well, anyway, so we've identified the sound, right? It's eh. It's like eh, what's up, doc? It's not eh, like in send, and it's not ah, like in cat. But let's look at some dictionaries. The free dictionary, this is pretty good because I think it gives you both British and American. So let's look at cat. Okay, we know that has the ah sound. Okay, so for the short a, they use this symbol here it's an A with like a bowl shape over the top. Oh, here's the pronunciation key. Yeah, so they're telling you what their symbols look like, and it does not match the International Phonetic Alphabet. The American Heritage Dictionary uses that same symbol.
Cat, cat, cat.
Yeah, cat. That's pretty accurate. That's a good pronunciation. Now up here you see a U.S. flag and a British flag.
Cat, cat,
Cat, cat.
cat.
Yeah, that's pretty good. One's female, the other's male, but they're pretty accurate with the ah. Now, if you look up the word fad, again, you see that A with the bowl-shaped symbol on top, right?
Fad,
Fad. Fad.
Yeah, they're all saying ah. Okay, now let's look up fan. Wow, this is really slow. Okay, let's get the lead out, guys. Fan. Well, look at that. The symbol is the same. It's the A with that bowl-shaped diacritic above it. How about the pronunciation?
Fan,
Yeah, there's the eh.
Fan, fan.
Fan. See, that's more like the ah
fan.
rather than the eh, rather than the fan.
Fan,
Fan. But if you compare dictionaries, you'll find that the Cambridge Dictionary is quite good because it uses the International Phonetic Alphabet symbols. So if I search for fan here, You can see you've got UK pronunciation and US pronunciation, and in the word here, you've got that A joined to an E, that IPA character. I think that's from centuries ago. It used to be part of the English language. We don't want that character back. But that represents the A sound. If you look that up in the International Phonetic Alphabet, that represents the A sound.
Fan. Fan.
Now see, the UK pronunciation is using an A.
Fan.
US pronunciation is using an eh.
Fan.
Fan. See, my whole life, I've always used the eh whenever the A is followed by an N or an M, and that's why it was really difficult for me to learn how to say fan, like cat, fan, sand. So if you notice that because they're using this IPA character that represents the A sound, I tried to find a vowel in an IPA chart, a vowel chart, that sounded like the eh that we use in fan and sand and brand and grand and man, and I couldn't find it. So I don't think that the IPA even has a character to represent that sound, which is kind of surprising because they try to cover like the entire world and every sound that. So they're treating it as if it's an accent, but I would say that a significant percentage of English speakers the world over do the eh instead of the ah whenever the ah is followed by an N or an M. And I'm not sure why that is. It somehow makes the transition to the N or the M easier, maybe. I know that typically we like to make things easier. The great thing about it is that that eh sound is not a match of any other vowel, so it doesn't create confusion. Like, so, for example, there is such a word as fen. Fen is a area of marsh. Marsh and fen, I think it's kind of a British
Fen.
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 Fen. See, the US pronunciation is a little more accurate with the eh. The British sounds kind of like an eh.
Fen.
I don't know, it's a little confusing there. I don't know what's going on. But you see, if we shifted, because we're talking about an accent type of shift, we're shifting the a to another vowel. And for some reason, we only do that when the a is followed by the N sound or the M sound. If we shifted it to an eh, then saying fan would sound just like fen, which would be confusing because fen is a completely different word, right? You don't want to do that. That happens a lot when people have accents. They shift the vowel into another vowel that already exists in the language, and then they confuse the word. One of these dictionaries, in fact, I don't know, was it Oxford? Hopefully it was this one. Okay, I think it was. So this also uses IPA symbols. I like that. This is the Oxford Dictionary, and it uses,
Fan.
it has both British and American. Okay,
Fan.
so that's the British pronunciation.
Fan.
Fan. Fan.
fan,
And now here's the American.
fan,
Fan.
fan, fan,
That's pretty accurate. So it wasn't this dictionary. It must have been another one.
fen,
Fen. Yeah.
fen, fen,
Okay. So the British is accurate. It's doing the
fen,
They match. British and American match with fen. Now the next shift up is to fin. Again, that's another word.
fin,
Now it goes to an American male.
fin,
Fin. That's almost getting towards that. That's a little higher. That's a little squeezier, almost to an E.
fin,
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 Maybe it's just because it's higher pitched.
fin,
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 She's shortening up the N a little bit. Um, well, okay, so this is the Collins dictionary. And again, you see the IPA symbol.
fan,
Fan.
fan, fan,
I don't know if that's American or British.
fans, fan,
But it's more of an than an eh. Well, anyway, if you play around with these dictionaries, you'll find that there's a lack of consistency in the pronunciations because of the fact that you have different accents. The people that they use to give these examples have accents. Now the thing is, there's no character. There's no special character for the eh. Like I mentioned earlier, the International Phonetic Alphabet doesn't have a character for eh, like we use in fan and sand and grand and land and man. And that's okay because there's no words that are differentiated on the basis of that sound. So, for instance, we say sand. If I said sand, rhyming with cat, sand, sand, and I said that sand, sand, and send are three different words, where sand, rhyming with cat, with the sand, is a word that means to walk gingerly, for example. So why don't you sand over here carefully? Well, then you would need to hit that vowel. And I still have a hard time doing it because I'm so used to doing the right? I have a hard time doing sand and using the sound. But in order for the listener to know that I mean sand to walk gingerly, I would have to nail that vowel. And it would be helpful in terms of writing language. Language is spoken, okay? Writing, we happen to have a writing system that is about 67% or 2/3 phonemic. 2/3 of the letters in our alphabet are phonemic, and they represent a single speech sound. The other third, that's the clown show, and that's why it's so difficult to spell words, and we have spelling bees, and we celebrate people who can speak words correctly and give them prizes and trophies and what have you. It's because our alphabet was never completed, and it's only two-thirds phonemic. So we can't spell words based on how they sound, and we can't sound them out on the basis of their spelling. But yeah, if there was sand, sand, and send, and those are three separate words, each one with a different meaning, then you have to accurately hit those vowel sounds. I would, and if I learned that from early childhood, it would be no problem. I would say sand, and then I would say sand, and then I would say send, and everybody would hear that difference as well. I mean, you learn that as you start learning stuff like that when you're a fetus in the womb. As a matter of fact, listening and differentiating between sounds. That you learn that in the womb. That's where it starts, and then you continue to learn uh, the listening and the hearing part of it, um, all the way up until you're speaking fluently. But yeah, so you would hear just like when I say sand and I say send, you hear that difference, and your brain keys right in on that, and you know exactly what word I'm saying, and you know that there's a different meaning between those two words. Well, your brain would do exactly the same thing if I said sand versus sand. If you had grown up differentiating that vowel sound. Um, so, the question of how many vowels do you have in your language? Well, it's kind of like whether or not you care to recognize these subtle differences. Because there's not a big difference between sand and send. It's not a huge difference. But we recognize it, and we learn to recognize it early in life. Um, well, so I guess that's all there is to say about that. That's the vowel sound that has no character. Not in our 26-letter alphabet, not in the International Phonetic Alphabet, and it probably will have. It will probably never have its own character in the English language. Um, it's treated like an accent, um, and just not officially recognized, but it's there, and you kind of you don't think about it, or maybe you think about it and you think, well, I guess it's just a mystery. Because I'm trying to think, what did I do during the first 50 years of my life when I never recognized that we don't say the same sound? And I never appreciated that fad and fan don't rhyme. Or I recognized that they didn't quite rhyme, but I didn't understand why. Well, there's a reason why. It's because they're two different vowel sounds. That gets into what is the definition of a vowel sound. The phoneticist will tell you that diphthongs are also called vowels, and monophthongs are pure vowels. I prefer to recognize only monophthongs as actual vowels, and diphthongs are combinations of vowels in sequence. Um, so, for instance, A is a diphthong. That's not a true vowel. That's a combo vowel. It's actually followed by E. So e, 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 a. There you go. It's followed by E. And it's a smooth transition. It's kind of subtle. It's very, it's so smooth that it sounds like it's one sound, right? But it's not. It's two sounds in sequence. On the other hand, a is a monophthong. That's a pure, true vowel. Ah. You can sustain it until you run out of breath. It's produced by your vocal cords. The sound comes out of your mouth, and you can sustain it for several seconds, and it stays the same from beginning to end. It's consistent. With A, it's A. So you can actually hear yourself going from E to E if you draw it out. But with A or oo, let's do oo. Ooh, very consistent. You can voice it until you run out of breath, and it's the same from beginning to end. That's a monophthong. That's a real vowel, and it's really the only type of vowel that I care to call a vowel. I'm not interested in calling diphthongs vowels, but that's you know I consider that clown world, and it's confusing, and it leads to, growing up not knowing what sounds are coming out of your mouth when you're speaking, and I don't like that. I don't like being misled, or being confused because you're just not taught accurately from the get-go. I would much rather that I learned accurately starting straight away in first grade or preschool, um, instead of being led to believe that A and I are vowels and that they think they should be represented by one letter when they're actually two vowel sounds put together. Um, but so the you can sustain that. You can voice it. Eh. So that's that's send. And then there's the or the in fan. Fan. Um, and then there's the in cat. Cat. Those are pure vowel sounds. So the is a real vowel. It's a true vowel or pure vowel. It's just kind of hard to and differentiate if throughout your life you've never been taught and you've never had to recognize it as a different vowel. Um, and that's probably not going to change. I created my own phonemic alphabet. I call it 7M English, 7M English fully phonemic alphabet. And I did not assign a character to represent the sound in fan and man and grand and slam and all that, because there are no words that are differentiated on the basis of that sound. Um, okay, I have blabbed on long enough about this.